What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. And let's go ahead and just begin this video with a boot up test on both these phones in 3, 2, go, and see which one can get there first. Now, the Pixel tends to turn on faster than almost every device out there, usually. Whether it's the 9 Pro, it'll turn on faster than a Pro Max. Whether it's this phone, it's going to turn on faster than the A series from Samsung, significantly so. Funny enough, though, I find that when it's downloading an update and restarting in those phases, Samsung's updates actually come through quicker for some reason than the Pixel. So you've seen right there that the Pixel did turn on faster. And while I did complain initially about the chin on the Galaxy A56, those side bezels are much nicer looking than the bezels on this phone, but at least these ones are uniform. They look exactly the same thickness all the way around. So you got to make some sacrifices in this area of price on either phone. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and take a look at the biometrics, just kind of see how they perform in this department. So both of these are not going to have ultrasonics, and they do have their fingerprints in different locations. The Pixels is more centered, which is similar to more of a top tier Samsung. Samsung lowers it down. You just have to decide which area you like it better in. But it looks like the Pixel might be a little bit quicker to unlock. Let's go ahead and do it again. 3, 2, go. Yeah, so the Samsung did a little weird blinking right there. And we'll do it again. 3, 2, go. Yeah, the Pixel is quicker on that fingerprint sensor. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the face unlock. I have it on skip lock screen, so we'll just get right up in there. Hold on, I got blocked by my camera. And you'll see, very nice. Let's see how the Galaxy A56 tends to perform here. That took a second to recognize me. Now it's right in. So pretty close. I would say that the Pixel tends to look a little faster and snappier on both that fingerprint sensor and the unlocking with the face. So far the Pixel is winning this battle. Let's take a look at the general operating system. Now this does have a smooth refresh rate just like the A56. It also has a Tensor G4, so this phone should perform kind of like a Pixel 9 Pro, but with less RAM. Now, the AI does take up some of the RAM, as some people have been pointing out in the comments as well. Gemini specifically, so in the other AI-based stuff on this phone. So this phone can reload apps with that 8 gigs of RAM, as you're going to see later. But as we swipe through in general day-to-day performance, you'll see it's not really that different. And I'm going to do a real-world app test in a little bit after our app speed test. But looking at the One UI 7, I like how Samsung has made the animations look, the whole software. I think it looks like really nice for what you're paying for that A series. Samsung, it just feels like a good value. With the metal and glass design, it feels like a nice premium phone for not a lot of money. However, the problem though is that software updates don't come in as fast and they're not as long supported as the Pixel 9a. So they're always trading something just like we did with the 16e, better chip, but not better looking phone. So you kind of are always trading something with these mid-rangers. Okay, so everything is closed out for both phones. There's going to be no tweaking of animations. Everything is default straight out of the box. Let's go into calendar to get this video kicked off. And you'll see that pretty much the same. Let's swipe up out of here and let's go to clock. Pretty similar. I do like the One UI animations better. I'm not going to kid with you. I usually test these phones before making the video. And the One UI, while the Pixel ones are improved with Android 15 here, and they're a little faster, I do like the way the Samsung's ones look. Let's go into Instagram, and we'll go over here to my profile page. And you can see a lot of wobble on the Samsung because the Samsung has that camera bump, whereas a lot of people are saying that Pixel camera doesn't look as good as the bar. Some people say it looks better, but I like the back design. This phone actually sits pretty flat on the table as well. Let's head into news, and you'll see news was faster for the Pixel. The Samsung's much larger though, and it's less money. But then again, it doesn't have as many updates. So you gotta pick and choose what you're gonna do here. It's really up to you. Some people are going to say, well, that one's more competitive with the S24 FE. Well, the S24 FE is a little bit more money, but I get what you're saying. I'm also going to do some comparisons with the OnePlus 13R against some of these mid-rangers, so stay tuned for that. Let's go into X on both, formerly known as Twitter, and you'll see that was faster on the Pixel 9a, We'll go over here to profile, and this matchup so far went to the Pixel 9a. This phone, that was a little choppy coming out. So let's go into Amazon on both. And you've seen that was faster on the Pixel 9a. A little bit of stutter there on that first scroll for the Samsung as I went down. Let's go to YouTube. And that was identical. Let's go to trending. Music, gaming, movies. What I was noticing when I do because I do a pre-run of this before I actually make the video, I was noticing that the A56 is shockingly close in performance to the Pixel 9a and just regular, just basic usage. It's a really decent phone over here with a really good ecosystem, but I wish it had better updates because I got some of the older A series phones as well, and they just don't get updates. I'm waiting forever for the updates. You could see over there, that was the Pixel. And so far, I have to say, I feel like the 9a is winning more of these, but not by a lot. It's not substantial. Let's go into Subway Surfers. When I did the 16e versus the Pixel 9a, it was pretty noticeably faster. Look at that. That was almost the same. It was noticeably faster with the chipset when we got to the games. Now, this one is in the same account, so whoever loads it first, the other one's going to get kicked out. So we'll see which one actually gets there. Looks like this one won because this one got the lost. So the Samsung won that. Let's go into RTS and see what happens here. Race the Sun, and we'll see what happens. And that one goes to the Pixel. So again, the Pixel 9a with another win. Let me know which one you would rather use out of these two down below. Curious. Let's go into Call of Duty. And we'll see what happens here for both phones. Is this really, this is in the lead so far on the Galaxy. So we'll see. So the A series did, and the Galaxy did get a boost when it comes to the GPU over prior year. But so did the Pixel 9a. So we'll see which one can get there first. In the gameplay though, I would probably think that the Pixel 9a might perform a little bit better. We'll see how it stacks up in 3D Mark to prove those frame rates. But this one looked a little snappier to load on the Samsung, but coming out, that was a little bit slow on the Samsung. Let's go into Free Fire, and we'll see what happens here for Free Fire. And is the Samsung in the lead, or is it the Pixel? Because sometimes it messes with me. And it looks like the Pixel was behind, but now, oh, okay, no, it was an account thing. So maybe it was a Samsung. No, actually, well, it was the Pixel because it booted me out. So the Pixel was slightly faster, which is why this one wouldn't load into there. Let's go into 3D Mark, and we'll go over to Wildlife Extreme. You'll see pretty good. We'll go into Geekbench 6, and let's head up out of there. We'll go to Speed Test Net. That was faster in the Pixel. And InShot, I think it might have been the Galaxy. I could be wrong. Both of these phones, though, did very well in this department of almost all the apps, proving that for basic casual use, they're not too bad. They're nowhere near as snappy as flagships, but you've seen that they're not horrible. Let's see how the 8 GB of RAM on both of these does when it comes to the relaunch of applications. All right, so let's go back through the applications. Now, in my 16e versus this phone just yesterday, this had a couple of reloads, and I wasn't happy about that. Let's go to Brawl Stars. That was loading up, but look at this, is just a basic game with a relaunch. Dead Trigger 2 with a relaunch. Groupon taking its sweet time. YouTube taking its sweet time. Now, where does this matter? Again, Twitter, this is not looking great. Play Store, Google News, and a little bit of weird jumpiness there. Let's go back here. Yeah, that went right back to the post. If I recall, we were in my profile page. And if we go here to clock, and then, did you see that app? If you rewind right now, I touched it and it blinked and it didn't open. So that was a touch response issue. When we swipe out of there, everything looks pretty smooth on the relaunches, but these applications here tend to reload, a lot of them for some reason. Maybe it doesn't have 12 gigs of RAM. Maybe it would benefit from 12. But Google knows what they're doing. They put enough for basic use. This is the lowest priced newer Pixel you can buy, the new ones of the 9 series. So you have to make a sacrifice here and there, and that's one of the departments you do it. Let's see how the Samsung A56 does. Let's go ahead and take a look at InShot. We'll go into speed test. We'll go into Geekbench, 3D Mark, and we'll go to Call of Duty. A little bit of a blink, but it's there. A little bit of a blink. This is doing better so far at holding this stuff. It already started reloading. That was better on the A56. So I could only imagine S24 FE. You just go up one tier from this phone and you fix this easily. So we do have some reloads starting to take place now, but Play Store was open. That relaunched. Does this hold my profile? No, it doesn't. It goes back. We'll go over here to clock and calendar. So this had quite a few reloads as well, but not as many as the Pixel. One of the issues I noticed here though was while the animations on One UI 7 are really nice, they can get a little bit choppy for this phone. They looked a little bit choppy in a few areas, whereas this one looked like it was smooth most of the time, but like because the RAM couldn't keep up, it got a little bit of choppiness as well. So both these phones can work on that area. They can work on holding their apps better in the background and reloading. And I think that at $500, $400 for this one, like $500 for this one, that's quite a bit of money. They should be able to do that basic thing pretty easily. All right, so let's do a real world test here on some applications to kind of see how the performance is on the Pixel 9a first, then we'll do this one. So I'm going to go into Google News. We're going to go over here into technology and we're going to find ourselves an article. So let's go ahead and take a look at something like this. Google's Android update, and we'll be reading an article. We'll zoom in, see how it does there. All right, now let's swipe up out of here. Let's go into YouTube. And let's go back into trending like we did earlier. Let's go to gaming, scroll down. Actually, let's go to movies over here. And let's go to music. We'll just see how this performs here. And everything's all good to go. If I swipe through, you'll see pretty smooth. Now, let me scroll through here, open up the calculator. I'll do a couple of calculations. And then we'll swipe up out of here. Let's go ahead and do a split screen now. And we'll go like this. And we'll go over here to now. See it, you can see how well that works. And then if I scroll back over here, as you can see, the performance is pretty fluid. So it's not at all horrible if we swipe through here. It's just you get a little bit of stutter from time to time if you're really pushing it. But generally, you've seen there in that real world performance test right there, that it definitely zooming in, pinching and zooming is very smooth, as you would expect. Pretty good. So you see in the actual usage, I'm not getting any real issues, even though you've seen in my app test that we were getting some stutters. In the real world performance, if you slow down, you're not rushing through, you're going to be fine. Let's take a look at the A56 now. All right, so let's head into Google News. Let's go to technology. Let's see if we can find a similar article. Maybe we'll find the exact same article. Scroll down here just a little bit. There's that same article. And you've seen that did pretty well. Now that ad popped up a little bit later there. As we pinch to zoom, I am noticing, I don't know, this seems to be running along a little bit choppier to me. Let's go over here to Play Store. That's pretty good. We'll go over to YouTube. We'll go to trending, music, scroll down. As you see, I scroll down pretty good. Gaming, the scrolling speed very fast. No major issues there. Now, if I go back home and I swipe through some of these applications, that looks pretty smooth. Let's do a quick calculation. And you've seen that's pretty good. If we take a look at history, clear the history. Let's go ahead and do some split screening now. And we'll go ahead and bring in news. We'll go ahead and flip these around, flip them around. Let's pull in a third application here because this is One UI. We'll bring in the calendar. Heck, let's even pull in a fourth application. So let's go ahead and bring the calculator in. We're actually already in the calculator. Let's bring in ChatGPT right here. And we'll bring this down. And you can see, even with all these apps open, the phone is keeping up pretty well. So the A56, once it's warmed up, once it's turned on, doesn't seem to be a major issue. Again, if you're running for a while on some of these apps, you can experience a slowdown from time to time. But generally, you see that it's offering a pretty good performance, a pretty good value in the real world there. So not bad. That's pretty impressive. Let's take a look at the benchmarks now. Well. You would have thought that the Pixel, being more money, would have actually got a much better score, but it's only slightly better on the single core, 1696 versus 1353 here in Geekbench. Now that is going to make a difference for the day-to-day, and I told you when we did the real-world test that the Pixel was feeling a little bit smoother, and that could be explained why. Now in the multi-core, it was literally like 32 points better on the Pixel, so that's nothing. Almost exact same performance in that multi-core. Let's go ahead and take a look at 3D Mark. We'll check the Wildlife Extreme to see where the graphics sit on both of these. I do remember the A56 being rather disappointing, but we'll see if the Pixel can outshine it here in the graphical department, which would tell you if it does have better gaming performance, because we're looking at graphics here. So we'll be back when they're done. And here is a double the score in Wildlife Extreme for the Pixel 9a, not only in the regular score but also in the frame rate. So when we start pushing these in the game, the A56 GPU probably will fall apart. So the Pixel is going to take the W there. And that's one of the more intensive benchmarks where it's going to matter a little bit more. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Android Man here, and we'll go ahead and launch our cameras before we get up out of here. Let's go ahead in 3, 2, go. And Pixel much faster than the Samsung there. Let's go ahead and hit up that camera again. 3, 2, go. Much faster. Shutter speed has always been a little bit of an issue for me on Samsung phones, but here it's not horrible, but definitely much slower than the Pixel. So the Pixel launches the phone faster. It launches the actual biometrics seem faster. Running through the phone for a little bit smoother, I would say. Overall, it feels like a little bit of a faster phone than the A56, but it's not like way ahead. You've seen in the Geekbench scores, it wasn't way ahead. And when we did the actual real world test you've seen earlier, it wasn't way ahead either. So I would say this is just a little bit ahead of the A56, not way ahead of it. So really, if you got an A56, there's nothing to be jealous about really, because it's still a really good phone and has better aspects than this phone. But I would say this probably would easily be taken down by like the S24 FE, for example, or maybe even the OnePlus 13R. So stay tuned for that. We'll have to see what happens in those upcoming comparisons. I'll catch you on the next one. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.